Hey guys, Zero here, and today I'll be comparing the Razer Taipan with the Steelseries Sensei Raw, the rubberized version. I usually don't do hardware reviews, mainly because, as you will see, my camera is shit. It is a Microsoft LifeCam HD 5000, which as a webcam, it does its job, but as a video camera, not so much. Also, this is going to be a fairly weird review. The reason being is I don't actually have a Sensei Raw to show off. I had to trade it in for the Taipan, and the reason to why that is so will be very evident in just a little while. Before we go off and look at each mouse, let's see the specs of each one. Before I start, I want to say that I do understand that the Sensei Raw is a stripped down version of the normal Sensei, which would be a better match as competition for the Razer Taipan. So let's start with the Sensei Raw. The first positive thing I've immediately seen was the huge Teflon feet. And excuse me if they're not really Teflon, but whatever they are, they make the mouse really easy to move, and they're so big that I don't believe they're going to be weared out anytime soon. Another really cool thing about the mouse was the good set of customization options. You could change things like light intensity, the pulsing or not of it, which type of DPI setting you would go to and go back to when clicking the little button behind the scroll wheel, and a bunch of other things that are inside the control panel for the mouse. Another physical aspect which I enjoyed from the mouse was the scroll wheel. It was fairly notchy, not easy to over scroll, which might throw some people off, but it really felt solid. I felt that I could get a bunch of scrolls and stop immediately at the one I wanted to stop at. A lot of other mices kind of feel floaty about their scroll wheel, or you can just let it scroll and it just keeps on going. That one was very precise. Obviously, the best thing about the mouse was the actual feel of it when it was gliding, when it was controlling. It's very precise, fairly regardless of what DPI setting you want to set it at. So both desktop and gaming, everything was really solid. Unfortunately, I also had a lot of ergonomic issues with this mouse. This is a personal issue based on how I grip the mouse. I use a claw style, using thumb and ring finger to hold and control the mouse. Since the Sensei is quite wide, this made my grip awkward and uncomfortable. I had to reach further down to be able to grip the mouse without actually hitting the side buttons. After about 30 minutes of this kind of use, my hand started to cramp up. The reason for this was, with the hold lower down on the mouse, I had to turn my hand a little bit clockwise. This means that my fingers were misaligned with the top mouse buttons. To hit the left and right mouse buttons, I had to actually tweak my fingers to the left a little bit, and holding this position really hurt after a while. Another thing was, with this type of grip, I could never really get away from the mouse buttons on the side. For me on the right side because I'm a righty, for anybody on the left. But basically they were always resting above or near these two buttons. And since the Sensei has very light side buttons, very easy to actually click, they were clicking all the time by mistake, so much so that I had to entirely disable the ones on the right side. Even with them disabled, it was still a hassle to hear them click, feel them click when you try to move the mouse, and this was really leading up to a little bit of frustration. Another issue that I had, not as big as the ergonomics, was that the mouse was covered in a rubberized coat. Of course, I bought the mouse exactly to have that coat, but I didn't actually know what it was until I had it in my hands. I was expecting something grippy, but instead it was something fairly smooth, and it had a fairly big side effect of making my hand feel clammy and over-dried. This feeling remained even after some 5-10 minutes after being done using the mouse, and it really didn't feel nice. Lastly, the braided cable is very tough, so it's hard to bend back and you don't feel like you really should be putting that much pressure on that cable. Onto the Razer Taipan. Starting with the pros of the mouse, the coating is probably the best thing of this mouse. It's simply sublime. It's somewhat like a fine sandpaper. It's not really coarse, but you can grip the mouse really well. At the same time, you don't actually sweat so much with this type of material on the top. As far as ergonomics go, this mouse is very close to the Razer Copperhead, which was my previous mouse, which a couple weeks ago broke down, which prompted me to look for a new mouse. The Taipan is a short, skinny mouse, which works great with a claw grip, but should also be fine with a palm grip due to the side grips and to the grippy coating on the top. Another important feature of this mouse is the dual sensor, a laser to track lateral movement and an optical to assist with liftoff. The laser sensor is very precise at all DPI settings, and the adjustable liftoff distance means you can customize your mouse even more to your specific habits. To be honest, any mouse that runs over 3600 DPI will have enough of a sensor to do pretty much what you need. It'll do well in both games and the desktop environment. I tested tracking when doing quick movements at different DPI settings with both mice, and there was really no difference in the two. Of course, my results are not very scientific as I didn't have both mice at the same time, but in general feel it didn't really make a difference. One thing that did make a difference was the ability to adjust DPI levels. You get 5 possible settings, but unlike old Razer mice, all of them are customizable. From 100 DPI to 8200 DPI in 100 DPI increments. This is a very large range where you can have pretty much a DPI for any settings that you'll find in the game. As far as issues with this mouse go, I did find a couple of fairly important ones. The biggest one was the mouse was going to sleep on me when I left it alone for a while. In nearly 3 weeks of use, it has done this only a handful of times and only when I left it unattended for over 5 minutes. It has never done this during a game. Even when I left for a bathroom break, I came back to find the mouse immediately active. I'm not really sure what causes this issue, but it's a fairly minor inconvenience at this point. Another issue I have with the mouse is that it has rubber grips on the sides. They're made out of good rubber and quite shallow, so they don't get in the way, but the feel is a bit weird, and they make my thumb sweat. I would have much preferred if Razer would have just left these sides with the same coating as the rest of the mouses. On the ergonomic side, while I said it's a very good mouse, very similar to what I used to have, I still find my ring finger not really being able to find a place for itself. I feel that it's a little bit too close to the side buttons, which means I do accidentally hit them from time to time. It's nowhere near as much as I used to hit them on the Sensei, especially because they are harder and at a different place, but it's still a little bit of an annoyance. I believe this is something that I can get over with just better placement and with time. Lastly, the Synapse 2.0, Razer's control panel, is now a cloud thing, meaning that you need to have a profile to customize your mouse, and it needs to go over the internet, and it needs to sync with the Razer cloud. A little bit of a pain in the ass, but not a big deal. I haven't had any issues with it, and your mouse will still be able to work and be customizable, settable, even if you go offline. I understand the annoyance this causes, but it is fairly minor. Overall, I'd say that the Taipan wins because of its greater DPI laser, adjustable liftoff distance, having more DPI settings, and for me personally, not destroying my hand. This last reason being by far the most important. This doesn't mean that the Sensei Raw is a bad mouse. Technically, I thought it was excellent, and the settings program was easy to use. But I really did not like the rubberized coating, so I would suggest you to get a standard version, which is cheaper. I still don't think the Sensei is an ideal claw grip mouse, but this varies from person to person, and palm grip people should be just fine. In the end, if you can, go and find a place where you can actually try the mouse out before buying it. I hope this has been at least a little bit informative. Till next time, take care.